This is Toronto Sports Rush. My name is Kyle, and I'm joined today by Dennis Bernstein, senior writer of the Fourth Period. Dennis, we're going to get to some Stanley Cup Final preview stuff because you are there in Carolina right now to take it all in person. But first, we have to start with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And, you know, as an observer of the game, I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on the management moves this team has made in the offseason, of course, with this week's edition of Judd Brackett, Freddie Hamilton. They're really
Sure.
putting a new structure in place.
It was a pretty big broom, Kyle, that
Yeah.
swept through the front office. We'll see if it works. It might work. Looks like it's the modern, the 2026 way to build a front office and management team. So we'll see if it works. It's going to, again, pivot around the general manager, right? The moves that they make, how they're going to make this team better. All these other ancillary moves, it's no different than what other teams are doing now, Kyle, to be honest with you. Who knows if it works? Can they find quality players? Do they make the right trades? Do they draft properly? It's not necessarily about how the structure is. It's about how the execution is.
Yeah, and it just seems with this team in particular, like you're there at the Stanley Cup Final and media day, the Leafs name comes up so often
Yeah.
because of the Mitch Marner connection. They seem to hijack the headlines whether they want to or not, and so the amount of pressure put on this management group to change something about this franchise in a hurry is probably, I don't know if it's excessive, but they have to deal with it one way or the other.
Well, you can't do a rebuild. It's like you can't do a rebuild in Los Angeles. There's too much competition. This is the Yankees of hockey. You're not going to rebuild. You're not going to do
Yeah.
it. So how do they supplement? How does Shika make trades that's going to make this team better? Because you're not going to get better in free agency, Kyle. Like everybody signed. It's like it's going to be one of the most boring, if not the boringest free agent frenzy in a very long time. How can they execute trades? How can they make this team better? How can they stay with? And you have to establish who the core is, right? And certainly fixing the blue line. And you're not going to do it through draft. You're not going to do it through agency. They're going to have to make some trades involved. And yeah, the Leafs names are always going to come up, like whether it's in Montreal during a media out or here about Mitch Marner. It's what sells. It's what gets clicks and everything. So I'm not surprised that the Leafs are a topic of conversation even here in Carolina.
Okay, and let's talk briefly about that trading block. We've heard rumors that Matthew Nyes may be on it. Is
Yeah.
that a mistake for the Leafs to consider dealing someone of his stature?
I don't know. You missed the playoffs. Is anybody untouchable? I guess Austin Matthews might be.
It's fair. It's fair.
Right? I mean, that maybe they had a deal in place for Nyes at the trade deadline. I mean, I think that's
Yeah.
what, when you listen to Kent Hughes, maybe that's what he was referring to. So would it be a mistake? You better win that trade, Kyle. I'll say that.
Yeah.
So I won't say it's a mistake. But if you lose that trade, that sets you back even further because this is a quality player who excels in Toronto, and not everybody excels in Toronto. So they better watch their step with that. It better be a trade that they win if they want to move that. But I think at this point in time, I think nobody's going to touch will, even Austin Matthews.
Yeah, and I mean, he did put up a good point total last year in a year in which most people had speculated that he was in fact injured for some of the season and not playing
Sure.
at 100% in the first year of his contract. So that has to be considered. What about a franchise staple like Morgan Riley? I mean, he's going to be a difficult piece to move, but is it time for both parties there to move on?
Yeah, I think you can look at an option if you want to improve the blue line. Look, Morgan's had a long run in Toronto. It didn't work. It hasn't worked. They haven't won a championship. They haven't come close. So, yeah, I think that's an option as well. I think there's 1 year left on his deal. So that's a guy you can look at to swing. And certainly defensemen are at a premium. So even if he's not a fit or they don't think that it's going to work with respect to the new core here in Toronto, certainly he will help another team. So you could certainly get a quality return. Again, if you think about trading Morgan Riley, it's got to be a first-round pick. It's got to be a prospect. It's got to be a quality return to get where you need to go.
And the Max Domi situation, it's a very unique offseason scenario. And I mean, players
Yeah.
are always injured, players are always getting operated on and stuff like that. But in this situation where he had such serious complications after, they feel as though his next season may be in jeopardy. He was a rumored trade piece as well. And he chose his own surgeon. And that's the part
Yeah.
that a lot of people are stuck on right now. Have you heard of a situation before in the NHL that quite resembles this one?
Yeah, Jack Eichel. And
Yeah.
that worked, right? And
Yeah.
it's a serious situation with Max. And he's questionable to start the season. I believe it was back surgery. There were complications involved, and he's trying to heal from those complications. So it's a tough situation. But I think a player and a human being has a right to select their own doctors. Right? I don't know how it works in Canada, but I'm in the States. I get to pick my own doctor. So yeah, it worked with Jack Eichel. It was unfortunate with Max Domi. Hopefully he recovers. He could play next season. But it's a serious situation that happened to Max, and it's unfortunate. I wouldn't necessarily blame choice of doctors. It's just when you get involved with backs and certain parts of the body, there's always risk involved. Any surgery, to be honest with you, Kyle, there's risk involved.
Okay, so let's preview the Stanley Cup Final because I don't think this is one that a lot of people would have predicted before the season or even before these playoffs. But here we are. Carolina is hosting Las Vegas tonight. You're there in person. What are some keys to victory for this Carolina team first?
Well, they're the better team, but Vegas is the scarier team, Kyle, because they got bigger
Interesting.
stars. So I think that the value proposition in this coming into this is structure versus stars. Marner, Eichel, Stone. I mean, they've got stars. They have very good players in the Hurricanes, but Sebastian Aho is in a superstar. Jarvis is in the superstar. Jackson Blake is a really good player, not a superstar. Stankovic. So the names for the casual fan may not be recognizable as they are in Vegas, but that's the referendum. Is structure going to win, or is star power going to win? I think the key matchup is in the middle. I think that Jack Eichel is going to see a lot of Jordan Stahl, and it's probably a player he hasn't seen in the first 3 rounds. And everybody's talking about Mitch Marner for Conn Smythe. I think their best 200-foot player has been Jack Eichel. I think he's been fantastic when they need him to make a big play. Mark Stone's been great since he came back. So I think so. It's structure versus stars. I think it's Eichel versus Stahl is a key matchup. But I think this is a long series, no matter how you slice it.
Do you feel as though, I mean, we saw in the last round that Carolina came out very flat against Montreal after a long
Yeah.
layoff. Do you expect
Yeah.
some of that perhaps tonight with this Vegas team?
Well, they have a terrible record in game one of the conference final. I think it was the first
Period,
time
yeah.
right, exactly. So it was like 7 straight or something like that. So there's a little bit of a layoff, but they are a healthier team. And I think the fact that they fell on their face against Montreal in game one, that gives Rod Brindamore all the munition he needs to tell his team, hey, remember what happened against Montreal? We can't have that happen against this team because this team is a bit better. And you don't want to have Vegas to get an idea that they can win the series by winning game one. I think this is a very, very pivotal game for Carolina because their history isn't there. But I think that the fact that they failed so miserably in the last round will put them on guard for this game tonight.
And also, just generally, I mean, they've made it to the Cup final here now, but they are still shaking off some of that can't succeed in the playoffs. They've been a front-running team for years now.
Yeah.
Now they're in the final, and there's a little bit of pressure with that. So I think game one, as you say, is of vital importance to them. Which of these two teams would you say has the edge between the pipes?
Well, I think that Vegas does, and here's why. Freddie Anderson's been great. And I think the problem with Carolina, Kyle, is they're 12-1. They played almost perfect hockey, and we're looking to poke holes in a team that's gone 12-1 in the playoffs and 113 points in regular season. Right? There's nothing to poke holes in. This is an excellent team.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Because of their structure and the way they play defense, Freddie has to be on his game. Vegas can win with an average game from Carter Hart because they have more offensive firepower. They can win a 4-3 game easier than Carolina can. Carolina scoring 4 goals might be a challenge. I think when you play these games, I think at least early you're playing the under. So I think the player that needs to play better, it's not necessarily edge, is Freddie Anderson because of the model of the way that team is set up. I think that Vegas can overcome, a 3-goal performance by Carter Hart and still win a game.
Um, Carolina was able to keep Montreal's shot totals to record lows in the conference final. Do you think they can do that against Vegas as well?
They can, but you can ignore the shot clock. Like Vegas, when they get another chance, is going to like if you leave Marner open from 10 feet away, he's going to finish. Eichel's going to finish. Barbashev's going to finish. Dorofiev, that we haven't talked about, is leading the team in goals, 10 goals. He can finish. Howden showed a touch to finish. So it doesn't matter if you get 25 or 30. It depends on how many high danger chances. If you give Vegas double-digit high danger chances in this game or any game in this series, they're going to win the game. So I think that Rod's probably telling his team, yeah, we'll control puck possession, whatever. It's how you prevent high danger chances that's the key. So I think the casual fan might look at the shot clock and it might be skewed in Carolina's favor, but ignore that. Go inside the numbers. Look at the high danger chances. I think that will tell you the team that's probably going to win the game.
One of the matchups in this series that I'm most fascinated by is truly behind the bench. You have Rod Brindamore returning to the Stanley Cup Finals, and you have just the entire situation around Tortorella and how he came into this team so late and the tremendous success he's had since, the quickness with which he was able to make this a cohesive unit. I find the coaching matchup here one of the most fascinating of the entire series.
It's a great call by you, Kyle. It might be the real main event. Like this is a philosophical war, right? You've got Brindamore, machine-like structure against Tortorella. What Tortorella get added to this team? Emotion, accountability, and pressure. So one coach develops systems, the other changes mindsets, and that's the difference. So this is absolutely a great tactical matchups between two guys who approach their teams very differently.
Yeah, I find what you said earlier with the way these two teams play so differently, although basically anyone Carolina plays is structured quite differently. They've had the most
Yeah,
success with that kind of structure. Um,
yeah.
w- w- with does the team that's expected to be there have an advantage or a disadvantage against the team that's really kind of, they're not on borrowed time? Vegas is a very good team, but no one
Yeah, yeah.
expected them to come this far. Which of these teams has that psychological advantage in your opinion going into this final?
Well, I think if you talked about the team that wasn't supposed to be here, that's Vegas through 60 games. But
Yeah.
then William Carlson got healthy, and they changed coaches, and the Carlson move moves Martin back to wing, gives them a legitimate 2C on the second line behind Eichel's line. So they're a team that if I told you that team that's presently constituted played 82 games, they have a better record. They probably win the Pacific in the breeze. It's not the pillow fight that Conor McDavid talked about the division. So I don't think there's any advantage, to be honest with you. And when you get here, Kyle, I think after the first 10 minutes, like if you haven't played in the Cup final after 10 minutes of the game one, you're going to know it's different, right? And so that's it. So I don't think any team has an advantage because I think Vegas, the way they are presently lined up, their depth chart, this is a team that actually deserves to be here.
Yeah, and one last question for you, and it's about the buildings they play in and the fan base that attends the games. Very, very different. Vegas, of course, being a tourist city. I was at the first game against the Leafs in Las Vegas this past season. It's a different kind of crowd, whereas in Carolina, that's that this hockey team's a star pupil out there. These people are so much more obsessed with
Yeah.
this hockey team, but it doesn't seem like home ice advantage plays as much of a role in the NHL playoffs as it used to. Do you expect anything from that perspective here?
Yeah, I think the reason that's changed, Kyle, with respect to that, you don't have like going into the old Chicago Stadium that was a pit, or the Boston Garden,
Right.
right, or the old Madison Square Garden, or the Spectrum in Philadelphia. All these arenas are basically uniform. So there's not like lower ceilings or tin roofs or
Yeah.
anything like that because of the amenities are better in these buildings. They're loud buildings. So and remember, I've been in both buildings. I've been to Carolina last couple of seasons. It's a very loud crowd, and it's certainly an advantage to have the crowd with you. But Kyle, let's be real. When they drop the puck, if you can't stop Eichel and Marner, don't matter if it's
Yeah.
19,000 cheering for you. They'll be booing to the end of the game. So I don't really take much. And Carolina's a seasoned team. They've played in conference finals. They haven't succeeded. So I would brush off the home ice advantage. I think the best team is certainly going to win.
Well, Dennis, it's a fascinating matchup, one no one expected, but hockey fans should be grateful for it because it's going to be a good series of contrasting styles. We thank you for taking the time to speak with us today. Enjoy the rest of the series. Enjoy tonight, game one. Enjoy your entire time following this, what should be a great Stanley Cup final.
Kyle, it's always great being on TSR with you. Thanks for the time. I appreciate it.